number 8 back to this evening's agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to suspend Rule 22A to add second readings to ordinance number 8 to this evening's agenda. Are there any remarks? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Smucker.
Aye.
Babcock. Showman.
Aye.
Hawk.
Aye.
Kimbrough.
Aye.
Scaglio.
Aye.
Smith. Fisher. Hall. Mario.
Aye.
Ferguson. Morris.
Aye.
12 yeas, Mr. President.
The motion carries, and ordinance number 8 is a legal part of your agenda. We are now under public hearings, and we have no public hearings for this evening. We are now under old business, and there is no old business for this evening. We are now under public speaks, and we have one speaker for this evening, and it is Ms. Kimberly Bell. Ms. Bell, could you please step forward and give us your name and residential address, please?
Kimberly Bell, residential address, well, again, homeless in the city of Canton. Okay, first of all, this piece of paper I just took from over there of the agendas and the whatever you want to call, whatever you do to do business of city council. I set up here and added up every dollar sign on here. It's over $11 million on this paper. I got a text, and out of your respect, President, I will not say any names because last year you asked me not to, and I'm doing this out of respect for you. I will not mention any names. I was called a barefaced lie by a city official about a conversation I had with another individual that works with the city about a program. I did not tell a barefaced lie. The conversation, you just should have called me and asked me how the conversation went, and I would have been more than happy to repeat it to you. But I did not lie about $5,000. When that's like going to the bank to say, I got a 700 credit score and I want $30,000 and I have a 700 credit score. When they go to look at the credit score, I only got a 560. So in my situation, you telling me I'm a barefaced lie was an insult to the injury I'm dealing with right now, which is homelessness, but I'm over that. You let up on 12th and Market, you'll see the Arabs have that whole area sold up. You go further down to 12th and Fulton, the Mexicans got it. And they find a loophole to fall through to get these businesses started. I've been a resident all my life. I'm 56 years old and I'm homeless. And I was told that today, in order for me to get housing, I got to go from a hotel to a shelter. A hotel I'm paying for to a shelter in order to get housing. Maybe me running for mayor is why these things are happening, so I can address these issues. I'm running out of time, and I got so much to say about this 11 million. Okay, if I'm a barefaced lie, that's what I wanted to say. If I'm a barefaced lie, then me running for mayor, I will be amongst my peers who lied to taxpayers about spending their money on the hotel that I work at or that Centennial Plaza. So me being a barefaced lie, I'm right with my peers when I'm talking to you all. So me running for mayor, you know, I really, really want that office because I want to change a lot of things.
Thank you, Ms. Bell. We are now under informal resolutions, and we have one for this evening. Mr. Clerk, would you please read informal resolution number 2 by title?
Authorizing direct service director to open one or more purchase orders in a total amount not to exceed $26,450 for repair of pump motor at Northeast Water Treatment Plant for the Water Department.
Leader?
Mr. President, I move we adopt resolution number 2.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt informal resolution number 2. Are there any remarks? Hearing none, by voice vote, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and resolution number 2 is adopted. We are now under communications. Let the journal show that all communications are received as read. We are now under ordinances and formal resolutions for their first reading. Mr. Clerk, would you please begin with ordinance number 1?
Resolution withdrawing Canton's objection to the transfer of the liquor permit located within the city and declaring same to be an emergency. Refer to judiciary. Number 2, ordinance amending appropriation ordinance number 239, 2020, declaring same to be an emergency. Refer to finance. Ordinance amending section 1305.01A, members appointment, qualifications, and vacancy of chapter 1305, Board of Building Appeals. Refer to judiciary. Number 4, ordinance authorizing the mayor, director of public service, or their designee to appropriate the state and/or interest in the properties prescribed in Exhibit A in furtherance of the Northeast Canton Industrial Park Project GP 1148, authorizing the mayor, director of public service, or their designee to make ministerial changes, correct property owners' names, parcel numbers, and other numerical, descriptive, or typographical errors, and declaring same to be an emergency. Referred to public safety and thoroughfares and finance. Number 5, an ordinance authorizing the auditor to pay Verizon Wireless a moral obligation amount not to exceed $4,434.01 for the water department and declaring same to be an emergency. Referred to finance. Number 6, an ordinance authorizing the auditor to pay Ray Bertolini Trucking Company a moral obligation in an amount not to exceed $34,156 for demolition of 615th Street Northwest, declaring same to be an emergency. Referred to finance. Ordinance authorizing the mayor, director of public service to enter into a conditional grant agreement with Canton Regional Chamber of Commerce Foundation, the amount not to exceed $25,000, utilizing 2175 comprehensive plan funds to be used in accordance with Jobs Ohio Commercial Air Service Restoration Program, and declaring the same to be an emergency. Refer to finance. Mr. President.
At this time, the chair will declare an in-house recess for the Finance Committee to meet in regards to ordinances number 6 and 7 on your agenda this evening. You are now in recess.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is 7:14. We'll call finance to order. We have ordinance number 6, an ordinance authorizing the auditor to pay Ray Bertolini Trucking Company a moral obligation in an amount not to exceed $34,156 for demolition of 615th Street Northwest, and declaring the same to be an emergency.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Deputy Mayor?
Mr. Chairman, members of council, this demolition occurred at 615th Street, which is also in the corner of 15th and Woodlawn, across from Schreiber Elementary. This is a large vacant apartment building, and we use CDBG funds to demo this building, and unfortunately the purchase order was not open when the demolition occurred, thus creating a moral obligation. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on this? Hearing none, we'll sign it out. Move on to ordinance number 7. Ordinance authorizing the mayor, director of public service to enter into a conditional grant agreement with the Canton Regional Chamber of Commerce Foundation in an amount not to exceed $25,000, utilizing 2175 comprehensive plan funds to be used in accordance with the Jobs Ohio Commercial Air Service Restoration Program, and declaring the same to be an emergency. I think we just heard the presentation on this.
Mayor Depp.
This is the item which we discussed prior to the beginning of the meeting at about 6:50 p.m.
Okay. Anybody have any additional questions that we didn't go over in the presentation? Hearing none, we'll sign it out. It is 7:16. That concludes finance.
Council is reconvening after the recess. Leader?
Mr. President, I move we suspend Rule 22A and add ordinances 6 and 7 back to this evening's agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to suspend Rule 22A to place ordinances 6 and 7 back on this evening's agenda. Are there any remarks? Hearing none. Roll call vote, please.
Smucker. Babcock. Showman.
Aye.
Hawk. Kimbrough.
Aye.
Scaglione.
Aye.
Smith. Fisher. Hall. Merrill.
Aye.
Ferguson. Morris.
Aye.
12 yeas, Mr. President.
The motion carries and ordinances 6 and 7 are a legal part of your agenda. Leader?
Mr. President, I move we suspend statutory rules on ordinances 6 and 7.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to suspend the statutory rules on ordinances 6 and 7. Are there any remarks? Hearing none. Roll call vote, please.
Smucker. Babcock. Showman.
Aye.
Hawk. Kimbrough.
Aye.
Scaglione.
Aye.
Smith. Fisher. Hall. Merrill.
Aye.
Ferguson. Morris.
Aye.
12 yeas, Mr. President.
You've heard the 3 readings. Leader Smuckler.
Mr. President, I move we adopt ordinance number 6.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that you adopt ordinance number 6. Are there any remarks under this ordinance? Hearing none. Roll call vote, please.
Smucker. Babcock. Showman.
Aye.
Hawk. Kimbrough.
Aye.
Scaglione.
Aye.
Smith. Fisher. Hall. Merrill.
Aye.
Ferguson. Morris.
Aye.
12 yeas, Mr. President.
The motion carries and ordinance number 6 is adopted. Leader?
Mr. President, I move we adopt ordinance number 7.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that you adopt ordinance number 7. Are there any remarks under this ordinance? Hearing none. Roll call vote, please.
Smucker. Babcock. Showman.
Aye.
Hawk. Kimbrough.
Aye.
Scaglione.
Aye.
Smith. Fisher. Hall. Merrill.
Aye.
Ferguson. Morris.
Aye.
12 yeas, Mr. President.
Motion carries and ordinance number 7 is adopted. We are now under ordinances and formal resolutions for their second reading. Mr. Clerk, would you please read ordinance number 8?
An ordinance authorizing the mayor or director of public service to enter into a joint facility development and use agreement with the Canton City School District pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 755.16 and Ohio Revised Code 3313.59 for upgrades to and the use of during months of Memorial Stadium, declaring same to be an emergency.
We are now under ordinances and formal resolutions for their third final reading and vote. Mr. Clerk, would you please begin with ordinance number 9?
Ordinance to provide for the issuance and sale of bond anticipation notes in one or more series in aggregate principal amount not to exceed $1.2 million for the purpose of paying the cost of constructing, furnishing, equipping, and otherwise improving a city community center, including facilities to provide community health and related services.
Leader?
Mr. President, I move we adopt ordinance number 9.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt ordinance number 9. Are there any remarks? Hearing none. Roll call vote, please.
Smucker.
Aye.
Babcock. Showman.
Aye.
Hawk. Kimbrough.
Aye.
Scaglione.
Aye.
Smith. Fisher. Hall. Merrill.
Aye.
Ferguson. Morris.
Aye.
12 yeas, Mr. President.
Motion carries and ordinance number 9 is adopted. Ordinance number 10, please.
Ordinance authorizing the mayor, director of public service to advertise, receive bids, award, and enter into contract for the sale of city-owned real property no longer needed for municipal purposes located at Stark County Auditor parcel number 231-489, 234-120, 206-291, 283-730, and 214-813. and to
Leader.
enter into all contracts necessary to facilitate said sale and declaring same to be an emergency.
Leader.
Mr. President, I move we adopt ordinance number 10.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt ordinance number 10. Are there any remarks? Hearing none. Roll call vote, please.
Smucker. Babcock. Showman.
Aye.
Hawk. Kimbrough.
Aye.
Scaglione. Smith. Fisher. Hall. Merrill.
Aye.
Ferguson. Morris.
Aye.
12 yeas, Mr. President.
Motion carries and ordinance number 10 is adopted. Ordinance number 11, please.
An ordinance authorizing the replacement of water line along State Route 172 from Perry Drive to Saratoga Avenue Northwest and Perry Drive from 12th Street Southwest to State Route 172 and declaring the same to be an emergency.
Leader.
Mr. President, I move we adopt ordinance number 11.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt ordinance number 11. Are there any remarks? Hearing none. Roll call vote, please.
Smucker.
Aye.
Babcock. Showman.
Aye.
Hawk. Kimbrough.
Aye.
Scaglione.
Aye.
Smith. Fisher. Hall. Merrill.
Aye.
Ferguson. Morris.
Aye.
12 yeas, Mr. President.
Motion carries and ordinance number 11 is adopted. Ordinance number 12, please.
Ordinance authorizing the mayor, director of public service to negotiate and enter into agreement for purchase of parcel number 213-133 and declaring same to be an emergency.
Leader.
Mr. President, I move we adopt ordinance number 12.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt ordinance number 12. Are there any remarks? Hearing none. Roll call vote, please.
Smucker.
Aye.
Babcock. Showman.
Aye.
Hawk. Kimbrough.
Aye.
Scaglione.
Aye.
Smith. Fisher. Hall. Merrill.
Aye.
Ferguson. Morris.
Aye.
12 yeas, Mr. President.
Motion carries and ordinance number 12 is adopted. Ordinance number 13, please.
Ordinance authorizing the mayor, director of public service to negotiate and enter into agreement for the purchase of parcel number 5210306 and declaring same to be an emergency.
Leader.
Mr. President, I move we adopt ordinance number 13.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt ordinance number 13. Are there any remarks? Hearing none. Roll call vote, please.
Smucker.
Aye.
Babcock. Showman.
Aye.
Hawk. Kimbrough.
Aye.
Scaglione.
Aye.
Smith. Fisher. Hall. Merrill.
Aye.
Ferguson. Morris.
Aye.
12 yeas, Mr. President.
Motion carries and ordinance number 13 is adopted. We are now under announcement of committee meetings.
Mr. President,
Member Merrill.
Finance Committee will meet February 22nd at 6 p.m.
Thank you, Member Merrill.
Mr. President?
Member Schulman.
Yes, same time, same place, or judiciary.
Thank you, Member Schulman.
Public safety and thoroughfares.
Yes, public safety and thoroughfares will meet the same time and same place. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Kimbrough.
Mr. President,
Clerk Doherty.
Director Hyman will be giving a presentation on utility rates, and the Canton City School representatives will be here to give an update on Canton City Schools. Same time, same place.
Thank you, Clerk Doherty. We are now under miscellaneous business, and I believe...
Whoa. Don't just announce him, please.
Okay.
Because I want to lay the groundwork for this.
Majority Leader.
COVID-19, which has become a part and a fabric of society. There isn't a day goes by that I don't get a phone call. And I called Mr. Adams today because I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated with telling seniors that are 80 years old, that they've got to call 5 different places to get shots, 10 different places to get shots. There's no one phone number to call. I'm frustrated because there's line jumping going on. And we all know there's line jumping going on. I'm frustrated because they believe that the Canton City Health Department is controlling the line jumping, controlling who's getting the shots, when they're getting the shots. I'm also frustrated because there isn't enough vaccines. And again, they seem to think that's the Canton City Health Department's fault. And I talk to the mayor at least twice a week about this. And I called Mr. Adams today, and I asked him to please come for miscellaneous business to give a Reader's Digest version that was very understandable, because my understanding is the council president's getting calls too, of these particular subjects and how, as government elected officials, we can deal with these. Thank you. Mr. Adams, if you could please bring us up to date on this.
Thank you, Mr. Majority Leader, President of Council, and members of Council. Spend a few minutes talking about COVID. I had a brief slide presentation. I don't know if Mr. Barton will let me share my screen to show that. If not, I can just go through the presentation directly.
Try to speak up.
Are you guys able to hear me a little better now?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. There are just a few things. Here we go. Give me 1 second, please. Thank you. You folks should see a brief presentation. Like any good government official, I have a few briefing slides. I just want to talk a little bit about our vaccine objectives. Ohio's stated objectives for COVID vaccination to save lives of the most vulnerable and to make the most efficient use of the vaccine possible. So as the Majority Leader stated, we are all frustrated by vaccine supplies. This is very early in our vaccination campaign. And during this early period, vaccine supplies are limited, and so we have to make the most efficient use of those. Ohio, like most of the rest of the country, has initiated a phased approach for vaccine delivery. The 3 phases that have been identified correspond with increasing vaccine supply. We are obviously in phase 1 right now because we have very limited vaccine supply. At this point, it is unknown when we can transition into phase 2 or phase 3. It's just simply too early to tell. Ohio has further segmented phase 1 into what we now famously know as 1A and 1B. The first rollout of the vaccine started at the last week of December, and it was targeted toward what we call phase 1A. That is healthcare workers, EMS, long-term care, people that live in congregate settings of high risk, such as skilled nursing facilities and a few other situations. Phase 1B, which we are in now, is loosely designed for residents 65 and up, those with various health issues, and employees and staff of K through 12 education, and a few other settings. And I have listed some of the dates that we've started vaccinating there. We started on January 18th with people that were 80 and older. We had a very nice rollout for that. We had a very good response from our older population, and it was very moving to be able to serve that population, which we appreciated very much. On the 25th of January, that was further extended to folks that were aged 75 and older, and also persons with severe congenital conditions with intellectual or behavioral health issues. And we partnered with our Department of Developmental Disabilities to help serve those individuals. Most of those ended up being getting their vaccinations through a county clinic, which was very helpful. At the 1st of February, we started with ages 70 and older. Some school districts in the state also started vaccinating school staff, and it was also expanded to people with certain medical conditions that may not have intellectual or behavioral issues. As of today, we were authorized to be able to serve people 65 and older, and we are scheduled to do a clinic on February 10th for Canton City Public Schools and our private school staff that are located in the city of Canton. That is going to be a large clinic for us. We're planning on vaccinating approximately 1,100 people within that 1 or 2 day period. And that was authorized by the governor, and the priority for this week is for the school staff. Real quickly on how vaccine is allocated, we all know the federal government has developed and procured this vaccine, and they established the general guidelines for its use. Specific allocation plans are the responsibility of the state, and each state can be different, so you'll see a little bit different vaccine utilization depending upon the state. For Ohio, this is mostly controlled by the governor's office and his cabinet. Ohio learns of its federal allocation usually on a Tuesday or Wednesday, so we'll know on a Tuesday or Wednesday how much vaccine has been allocated to Ohio for use by its citizens. We did make an allocation decision, Ohio does, based upon a model that they've developed. It's based on population, but also based somewhat on equity. Then they determine the number of doses that are needed for phase 1A individuals, for phase 1B individuals, and also for second dose. So as you recall, both the vaccines that are approved for use in the United States require 2 doses for full immunity. So we have to also plan for second doses every time we give a first dose. Local allocations for us appear in our system on a Tuesday or on a Thursday or Friday, and our shipments arrive generally Monday or Tuesday and sometimes on Wednesday. I do want to point out that all vaccine providers are bound by legal agreements with Ohio to follow Ohio guidelines and rules. So as the majority leader suggested, there might be some folks that do not follow the guidelines, but we're all required to follow the same rules and the same guidelines. So folks that do that are doing that at their own peril. The challenges we have in scheduling our clinics is that we don't know our allocation usually until the Thursday or Friday the week before that we have to plan our clinics. Sometimes the actual amounts we receive vary from the allocation plan, so we don't know what we have until it appears on the doorstep. And we have received both Pfizer and Moderna products, and both, as you've heard in the news, require very different and very unique handling characteristics between the two products that make it a challenge to manage. For us, for Canton City Public Health, our clinic scheduling goes like this. We have a pre-registration process where people can register their interest in getting vaccinated. They can do that by a web page or by a phone number. And I've listed the addresses there. It's cantonhealth.org. And then it takes you to a link to a page where you can schedule or you can pre-register for a vaccine. Or you can call a phone number, 330-451-6774, whereby you leave your information and we will put you on a pre-registration list. We then use that list to call and schedule appointments based on vaccine availability for the coming week. We are using a vendor to help with that, so not all those calls will come from Canton City Public Health. Just to give you a sense, current allocations, we're getting about 400 doses of vaccine per week for phase 1B. And our clinic capacities right now are between 400 to 600 per week with our current staffing. So we do have enough staffing to keep up with the volume of vaccine that we get, but we do not get enough vaccine. And just before this call, I did look at our numbers for our pre-registration list. Right now, we have 1,817 people on the list that need to be scheduled. And just today, we added 169 new people to the list. So as you can see, unless the federal government is able to step up production of vaccine and deliver more vaccine to Ohio, we're going to be always behind the 8 ball as far as getting this vaccine out in the community. So we can handle really quite a large volume of vaccinations, and what we need is the vaccine to make that happen. The last thing I want to talk about real quickly is there a question?
No, go on.
Okay. The last thing I do want to talk about is equity. We think equity is a key component for our vaccination program. Right now, our current process can pose, and we recognize it does pose challenges to those that may not have ready access to even some basic technologies such as a phone or a computer or an internet. And we do not want that to be a barrier to populations that have already been disenfranchised. So we also recognize the need to provide further education in certain vulnerable and disenfranchised populations, and we've been trying to do some of that. Our current equity plan is this. We establish separate scheduling opportunities each week for what we term as equity clinics, and these are distinct and separate from our pre-registration list. So what they will allow is some community partners to directly schedule people into our clinics that did not have to go through the pre-registration process. And some examples that we've used already are the Urban League, some churches, and we're also looking to expand that to other equity groups into disenfranchised populations. So we want to be sure that we are able to reach people that would have trouble being reached otherwise. Our challenges, or our guidance is changing daily and it's sometimes inconsistent. You've all experienced that. I do want to point out there are additional community providers that are being allocated vaccine in Stark County. They include all the Marks pharmacies, all the Giant Eagle pharmacies, all the Drug Mart pharmacies, My Community Health Center, which is a federally qualified health center, and the local hospitals. So vaccine is available not just from the health department, but it's available from other providers in the community. What's good about that is more providers means greater access, so we want to see more providers. What's bad about the current allocation with these other providers is that most of them are not in Canton areas of highest need to assure equity. So we think the health department's role is to help with that equity piece. And additional providers, as the majority leader has pointed out, may not stick to the plan for distribution and go off the rails a little bit, which causes problems for everybody. We have not been able to secure a workable report of vaccinations that we can look at by race, ethnicity, and zip code. So we are having a very difficult time determining our performance related to equity, but we are working on that every day to try to get a better understanding of how we're doing in that area. And obviously, I mentioned the uncertainty of vaccine allocation from week to week, and just the pace of vaccination clinics in the long term, because all this work takes time from other programming that the health department has, but it's what our priority is right now. And with that, I'll pause and see if anybody has any questions.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Adams, just I want to break this down. So you're doing educational shots this week. So how many spare vaccines do you have that are not educational that you can give out this week?
We do have several hundred scheduled. They're all second dose clinics, so they're for people that have already received their first dose of vaccine and are now scheduled for their second dose of vaccine.
So you have several hundred, but they're scheduled for second doses, correct?
That is correct.
So you will be not giving out any new doses other than the educational?
That is what we have scheduled for that this week. That is correct.
That's number one, and that's one of the frustrating parts. Number two, there is no one phone number to call. Is that correct?
That is true. There is no single phone number to call for scheduling a vaccine appointment. So people are left to scour the internet and go shopping and try to find out where they can get vaccine available.
If this ever picks up where you get more vaccines, is it possible to hire some part-time retired people to get more vaccines out other than 400 to 600?
Well, we have plans where we can vaccinate much more than the current capacity we're doing right now. So we're only using basically existing staff, but we could bring on volunteer staff And we have plans where we can ramp that up should vaccine supplies become greater.
So maybe by talking to the state, how many people could you potentially do in one day with volunteers?
Well, I think that just depends upon the size of the facility that we'd be doing the vaccination at. But, for example, we're planning on doing 1,000 at one of the middle schools on Wednesday. And that shouldn't be a problem for us at all.
Good. Just like my phone, your phone, you run into people. This is what's going on, folks, and this is not just simple. I know when I was out collecting signatures, I got a lot of people that stopped me and wanted to know when, where, how I can get a shot. And it's not that simple now in this current climate.
Mr. Adams, I have a question. I've been getting a lot of phone calls myself, and then I've been hearing where there have been persons going into senior high-rise buildings and doing them there. How does one area get that done? Say, for instance, a lot of those residential buildings, they really can't get out. And I noticed the wellness center, someone came over there and gave them shots. They also did it at the building on Market. So, can you hear me, sir? Can't hear me?
Yes, Member Smith. I think your question is about in high-rise buildings and senior living centers.
Yes.
Right. So I learned this morning that the state of Ohio, through the Department of Aging, is planning on a vaccination campaign in those kinds of facilities utilizing the National Guard. And so we are hoping to get further clarification on how that program is going to work later this week.
Okay, so you will be doing more of that in facilities around the city?
I'm sorry, Member Smith, I can't hear you.
Member Smith, you gotta press the button.
Are you saying that you will be
Doing more facilities around the city where they will go in and administer the vaccines to the residents?
Our campaign right now is going out into the community to get people registered and scheduled for appointments. But right now, the vaccine clinics are at the health department.
Okay, I'll call you tomorrow because I still don't get no clarity on what my question was. So I'll just call you tomorrow.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
I'm sorry I didn't quite hear. If you want to restate it real quick, I can try to answer the question.
Well, the question was, how do a facility such as Queen Esther, Girard Gardens, get persons to come in and administer the vaccines like the Wellness Center on Mahoney Road did, and the facility that's on Market, about a half block, I don't know the name of it, from CSE?
The answer to that is for vaccination clinics is that the Ohio Department of Aging is working with the Ohio National Guard to schedule clinics into those kinds of facilities. And that planning is occurring right now, and I don't know the specifics of the plan.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Smith.
Member Hall?
Director Adams, I have been getting complaints about people who have tried to pre-register and they haven't got a response, but they have went to some of these other providers, and not only have gotten responses, but they've already got their vaccination and still haven't heard from the health department.
We do not call every individual that gets on the list. If they have called and left their information on the phone number, then the contractor that we're using gets them registered on the list, and they may not get a call in that fashion. They will get a call if they're able to be scheduled for an appointment for vaccination.
And Mr. Adams, who is the contractor?
Good. It's an organization in Akron called CMOR, C-M-O-R. They are a market research firm that we've used for community health assessments in the past.
So are you pretty confident in this contractor?
Yes, I'm very confident. They've done a nice job for us so far.
Well, we just want to make sure, and I agree with Member Hall, that we want to make sure that our constituents at least gets a courtesy call back to a certain degree, but...
Well, I know from personal experience, Mr. Adams, that what's happening is when the health department doesn't call them back, they think that they haven't gotten the message, so they then start searching for somewhere else because everybody's obviously anxious. My mother, who's 90 years old, did that and ended up getting hers at a local drug mart. So I don't know how that system works, but maybe there's something that they can do to assure that the people are at least on the list or something. I think it is probably extremely confusing for our elder population.
Let me reiterate that this is the way the state of Ohio has set up this system, and that people are basically on their own to try to find a provider to get vaccine. And the health department is only one of many providers in the community for that.
I see. Okay. I don't like that, but I understand.
Mr. President.
Totally understand.
Mr. Merrill, hang on a minute. Mr. Adams, I don't think you caught the gist of this, and I will go over this with the mayor later, and I know I'm one of them. I think the seniors are afraid that since you're not responding back, you're on a list. They don't know if you're on the Canton City Health list or not. And I think what we're asking you to do is to forward an email back saying, yeah, we've received your request, or something that says these people know that somewhere in the near future they will be getting a shot.
Okay, I hear what you're saying.
And Mr. Adams, just to add to the majority leader's comments, that the phone calls that I was receiving, and I truly believe that you guys are doing the best that you can under these circumstances. There is no doubt about that. But the phone calls that I receive is just the communication. And whether it's we're going to put it on Facebook or on a website or whatever, but just it's just not saying there's a breakdown in communication, but when they don't hear anything, that's the biggest complaint. And I'm not quite sure what we can do to rectify that problem, but we're all going to have to work together. There's no doubt about that.
I agree.
Member Merrill?
Mr. President. Yeah, I not to beat a dead horse, but I wanted to comment also on the idea of the callbacks. If someone's calling and they're calling the health department and they don't hear back, especially at a time where everyone is very nervous, and that's not going to be a good experience, and it's not going to inspire the public that we've got this under control. So I think the callback is just incredibly critical. I know just from private business, you don't call somebody back, not only do you lose that customer, the bad publicity has a multiplying effect. So I think that's a crucially important part to this.
I will share that when people have asked if they've been on the list and I've checked for them, they have invariably always been on the list. I've never had a case where they have not been on the list when they thought they were put on the list. So I have a high confidence in the ability for our group to get them on the pre-registration list. Now, what is also happening is that there is a delay in the amount of time we have from the time they're on the list to when they can get scheduled for a vaccine. And that delay is going to get longer, and people are going to be frustrated by that. And so you find people, they'll get on multiple lists. So they'll register with us, they'll register with Drug Mart, they'll register with Giant Eagle, and they'll just go to the first place where they get vaccinated. And that, unfortunately, is the scheme that Ohio has set up with to start with. And there's really nothing I can do about that.
Mr. President?
Member Morris.
Director Adams, when you state Drug Mart and Giant Eagle and some of the other people are getting the vaccinations in, do we have any idea as the quantities that are being distributed to them as well?
Yes, every week I get a list Yeah, I do get a list, and I know how much are allocated to the other providers. And each of these other providers are getting 100 vaccines a week.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Member Merrill.
with the other providers that aren't Canton City Health, has there been any coordination with those providers to be able to refer back and forth, find out if there's any open availabilities in a certain week? So when people do call, if we aren't able to get them that quickly, we might be able to route them to one of these providers. And as time goes on, more vaccine becomes available. I would imagine that that kind of coordination would be beneficial. Are we doing any of that right now?
No, we do not have the resources to do that. And that is the suggestion where you might think about a one-call number or something like that, and that just doesn't exist.
Mr. President, I guess the follow-up is, what kind of resources would it take to be able to establish something like that? Is there any way we could have that provided to us? I imagine when you say resources, you mean money. So,
yeah,
to know that dollar amount.
I don't know. And you know, like I only know that I can control the vaccine that I get in my clinic and the response of my clinic and be able to manage that. So I cannot manage the vaccine for other entities. Most of them that are not even in our jurisdiction.
Mr. President?
Member Schulman.
Yes, I had one additional question. As the state sets up what different groups are going to be getting the vaccine, does that sometimes mean that we haven't really taken care of some higher on the list as they keep opening it up to younger people?
That absolutely means that. And we also get new people that are interested. Let's say I just saw today that we had some people that were in their 80s that were interested in getting vaccine. So our list becomes inclusive. So yes, we are moving on.
That just makes it more confusing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Are there any?
The reason why the reason they would do that is they made an assumption that there's going to be more vaccines available. But as they keep moving people younger and younger, and then the older people are getting, then it just becomes like a mass confusion because everybody thinks they're ready for the next group and they're not, or you're not because you don't have the product. Yeah.
So most of those policy decisions I have no control over.
Yeah,
my goal is to make sure that I run an efficient vaccination clinic, that I use all the vaccine that's allocated to me, and that I pay attention to equity in the community. Because people that are able to find vaccine at these other providers are people that have better access. And I want to make sure that we also are paying attention to people that cannot do that.
Okay, I understand. Well, if there's anything I can do, I'll be happy to get on the phone.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Are there any additional questions for Mr. Adams? Jim, I would like to thank you for the job that you're doing. There's no doubt that these are extraordinary circumstances that we're going through right now. But we're just going to have to get through this together. But I want to thank you for attending tonight.
Thank you, Mr. President. Appreciate the opportunity to clarify what we're doing.
Thank you.
All right.
Try to stay sane.
Is there anything else under miscellaneous business for this evening?
Yes, Mr. President.
Member Smith.
On a good note, I want to send a shout out to Hartford, 7th and 8th graders. They are undefeated. They moved on tonight to the finals, and they got 2 more games, and if they win those, they're going to be the city champs.
All right.
So that is Hartford Bulldogs. That's somebody said, where's that located? None other than in the 4th Ward. Why would you ask? And I'd like to send a shout out to Coach Frank Boo McLeod and his staff. They were outstanding. And I'm not trying to brag about them on the real side, but they usually beat whoever they playing at least by 30 points, you know? And so they beat them tonight by 50, you know, just to let y'all know.
Oh, yes.
Mr. President.
Mayor Burnaby.
Member Smith, would you also like to announce the food giveaway this coming Saturday in your ward, please?
Yes, I forgot about the food giveaway. Listen, city, there's going to be a food giveaway, and this is going to be going on twice a month, and it's starting this Saturday, which is the 13th? The 13th and the 25th, I think it is. And it's Canton out of Canton. It's a group of guys that came and gave away food during the holiday time, and they're going to be doing this every month, twice a month, and it's going to be done at none other than in the 4th Ward at the Southeast Community Center. So, so for further information, you can call me or you can call the office, and if you didn't get that clarity, that's going to start this Saturday, and it's going to be done twice a month. The time is 1 to 4. So please get the word out, and anybody and everybody, come and get some food. All right? Thank you, Mayor, for reminding me about that. I was so excited about them Bulldogs. Forgot about the food.
Thank you, Member Smith. And for clarification, Member Babcock, that is the 4th Ward.
That's right. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Member Smith. Is there any other miscellaneous business for this evening? All right, hearing none, Clerk Doherty, our quote for the week, please.
Member Smith, that's my alma mater.
I knew you was gonna say that.
I played basketball, and yes, I did start.
Don't say that.
Your quote, I had no idea that history was being made. I was just tired of giving up. Rosa Parks.
All right.
This is a good one.
Mr. President,
Leader Smuckler.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. Mr. Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Smuckler. Aye. Babcock. Aye. Shulman.
Aye.
Hawk. Aye. Kimbrough.
Aye.
Scaglione. Aye. Smith.
Aye.
Fisher. Aye. Hall. Aye. Mario.
Aye.
Ferguson. Aye. Morris.
Aye.
12 yeas, Mr. President.
This meeting is adjourned. Stay safe and stay warm.
Bye.